The actions of our today's manhwa clearly begin not in a very prosperous area, in which darkness, crime, and severity dominate. This is a place where it always rains, where there is always a gloomy sky above the heads of the inhabitants, and insects attack this city all year round. Next, we watch an equally stern man who, like Guts, walks in a cloak along the dark, gloomy streets holding some kind of package in his hand. We continue to watch as a man in a raincoat, unknown to us, continues to walk somewhere through the darkness. After a couple of moments, this guy finally takes refuge from the annoying rain and enters some dysfunctional entrance in which he begins to rise. Having reached the desired door, we observe how this door is reliably protected. The one who reserved this door is clearly afraid of an invasion of zombies from Call of Duty. Then we watch as a fan of this game approaches the door, and then with great effort he tries to move a huge box that prevents the door from opening. Pushing aside the huge drawer, a small finger stands on tiptoe to remove the lock on the door so that the door can finally open. A few moments later, the door opens, and this little innocent boy in a harsh city looks through the eyes of a victim at the one who came to him. Meanwhile, the boy is watching the man we saw earlier. For some reason, he decided to take off his raincoat, apparently to show off his perfect abs. This very menacing-looking guy is called Su Qianzhou. He takes off his hood and asks the boy if he was going to leave it on the street. After this, a muscular guy enters the apartment. Meanwhile, while greeting, a little boy asks why it's taking so long because he's already dying of hunger. This little boy's name is Su Yanyan. We watch as our main character hands the package to his little brother, thereby making him happy. After receiving encouragement from his older brother, he calls him into the kitchen to go eat together. Having reached the kitchen, the little boy opens the contents of the package. Inside, there are various goodies and several small candies. The little boy's attention is immediately drawn to yuebing, a type of Chinese pastry traditionally eaten during the Mid-Autumn Festival. Next, we watch as one of the delicacies tries to escape from these hungry poor people. She falls off the table and tries to roll away to save her life. But this tasty treat is doomed. Our main character picks it up and tells his brother that this is not something he can eat every day, so don't let him waste it. Meanwhile, my brother, captivated by the delicious Chinese pastries, greedily eats them, saying that the Mid-Autumn Festival is truly wonderful, almost like a Fortnite battle pass. Our main character, going to the hangar, takes off his coat and reminds the boy that no one will take anything away from him, so he can eat leisurely. Judging by the muscular relief of our protagonist's back, we can conclude that he is no stranger to physical activity. The boy immediately notices his brother's injuries. A caring little sweet eater offers the guy to bring some ointments to rub it on. The Giga Chad refuses, telling the guy to stop eating and go to bed. The tall guy also adds that if he lacks sleep, he will remain short, becoming an object of ridicule for people around him. However, the name of such a cool, pumped-up brother, the boy concludes that no one will dare to mock him. Su Qian reminds his brother that he will not always be there. Our main character also added that if he doesn't believe him, then maybe he should kick the boy out. But this only amused Yanyan. He told his brother to kick him out quickly. This little brat explained his words by saying that if he kicks him out, he will stop seeing his ugly face, and at that very moment the guy gets hit in the head. Then the little boy looks at the boarded-up window and remembers that his older brother promised him that when they ate the yuebings, they would be able to see the moon. But there is none. Our main character, looking at the window with dubious functionality, told his brother that he would definitely take him to look at the moon. But for now, he needs to think. A little boy looks up somewhere and asks his brother what the moon looks like. He, like the League of Legends players, doesn't know what it's like to go outside. In response to this, our main character extends his muscular hand to the top, and covering the light bulb with a treat, says that the moon is a huge, tasty treat that glows above his head. However, Yanyan was not so stupid as to believe such nonsense. Climbing on top of his older brother, he assures him that he will never fall for such a thing. The course of events is interrupted, and we watch as Yanyan went to bed, and the beaten guy sitting next to him on a chair opens some kind of interface menu. We see in front of us a real interface like in RPG games. Our main character has an unknown rank and characteristics, but his current mastery of the killing flame is 97%. Looking at the system, our main character understands that nothing has changed, or to be more precise, only the design of this notification has changed. Next, another notification appears in front of Su Qiang, the text of which notifies him that he has not yet reached 100% in the art of killing flames. The beaten Giga Chad, looking at this notification, already familiar to him, understands that he still lacks 3%. He decides that he needs to check it again tomorrow. The course of events is interrupted, and the next chapter begins with the events that happened 2 hours ago. We are watching the real bane of the world of this second-level manhwa. Budget Bane and our main character are in some kind of fight club. Bane, calling our main character a bastard, tells him to get up because he spent the money. Meanwhile, we are watching Su Qiang, who has already missed many blows from this thug, but he understands that he must take the next blow. After this, a thug with a small brain, looking at our main character, reports that they did not lie to him about the fact that his opponent is an excellent shaving blower. Meanwhile, we see some plump man in a red suit adjusting his glasses and watching this battle. This plump man's name is Agent P. Tao. Returning back to the battlefield, we watch as a huge masked gorilla throws all his weight at Su Qiang to kick him. Our main character, alas, does not have time to react to this attack, which is why in the next second he receives a powerful blow to the abdominal area from a 200-kilogram carcass. The mass of our protagonist's opponent is so much greater that this blow turns out to be so powerful that it makes the guy fly a couple of meters and crash into the wall. Immediately after this blow, the referee, who has been watching the fight all this time, declares this fight over with his whistle. However, this huge pile of muscles, which is filled with testosterone at this moment, continues to move towards the guy, saying that he has just started having fun. An honest judge is trying to stop this bruiser, more than 2 meters tall, saying that his opponent is no longer able to continue this fight. However, this fierce-looking warrior does not have enough testosterone reserves for this frail judge. He orders it to be handed over to the enemy when he recovers so that he can return. After a pretentious announcement to the whole hall, this muscular man turns his back to his opponent and celebrates the victory. Everyone is shocked by the physical strength of this big man. However, our main character, who received a powerful blow, lies against the wall and bares his teeth looking at his opponent with the thought that he is still conscious. Meanwhile, the manager of this testosterone-filled gorilla realizes that his fighter has been pumping up for too long because he has only reached the second level by beating others. Next, we watch our main character, who at this time stands in front of his mirror and examines his wounds. The man next to him asks how he is. Instead of somehow answering, Changzi ignores this extremely stupid question and bends down to wash his face. Despite the fact that the water after washing our main character turns red, given that he did not eat anything with ketchup, he replies that he is fine. This man with long hair and a green suit is called Guan Yongqi. He tells Changji that his money has already been transferred to his account, but he advises him to take the day off tomorrow. Indeed, otherwise there will be no living space left on the body of our main character, but the guy, without answering anything, takes his cloak and silently leaves the room. Meanwhile, the course of events moves to the present. We watch as Changjia carefully sneaks up to his brother and puts candy in his hand. Looking at his peacefully sleeping younger brother, the guy mentally tells him and himself that soon this whole nightmare will definitely end. After some time, the course of events moves to the office of the same man in a green suit who paid our main character for his fights. That same guy is sitting contentedly on the couch at this time, reading some important document while smoking a banana-flavored cigarette. However, his very important pastime is interrupted by a phone call as the phone begins to vibrate, attracting attention. Guan Yongqi, noticing that he was receiving a call, puts out his cigarette on the table with his cool metal hand and reaches out with the other to answer the phone. After the man answers the phone, he begins to walk around. The person calling him was Changzi. A man with long hair asks our main character if he has decided to come to today's tournament. The man is surprised because there is no living space on him. Meanwhile, Changzi, already completely healthy, talking on the phone, tells the man that he has been working for him for 3 whole years, so he knows the limit of his capabilities. After some attempts to persuade Changzi, the man agrees to his participation, saying since he wants it so badly he has no right to refuse, so they will make a good deal. Meanwhile, our main character is clearly not in the mood to discuss anything for a long time. Instead, he briefly reports that he is counting on him in this matter. At this time, a woman with short purple hair tells Guan Yongqi that his client is incredibly tenacious like a cockroach, but she predicts that he will not survive today. Guan Yongqin himself, lighting a cigarette to increase the artificial level of coolness, reports that he is also worried because yesterday his opponent was ruthless. The forecast is sad. The woman continues to assume that our main character really needs money, but even despite this, she believes that he is crazy and is meddling in a second-level competition. Meanwhile, Guan Yongqin tells the girl that the guy wants to get into the second-level zone, but the money he has is barely enough to submit a competitive application. The woman is surprised, saying that even if he successfully submits an application, it will take a lot of effort to advance. An ordinary person has no chance of getting to the second level. Guan Yongqin once again puts out his cigarette with his metal hand. He says that even though he has known our main character for a very long time, he does not know his rank. Meanwhile, the course of events is transferred to the roof of the building in which our main character and his brother live. They are doing morning exercises. The brother asks if he will stay with him today. Qiangzi briefly replies that he needs to leave, after which he tells his brother to be at home, and if he returns safely, he will play with him. His brother happily sees him off. Meanwhile, the guy coming down the stairs thinks that his killing flame is 97% activated. Everything will be decided tonight. After some time, our main character realizes that he is thinking too much, so he spends the rest of the way to his destination in silence. Having reached some night establishment, our main character silently follows inside, not paying attention to all the people around him. The place where Senzi arrived was an ordinary night bar. Approaching the bar counter, he saw a bartender girl who had a second rank, an intermediate stage. Approaching the bar counter, our main character called the bartender's girlfriend, telling her that he would have the usual Russian gentleman set, that is, a glass of vodka. A few minutes later, the bartender serves our main character the glass of vodka he ordered, or perhaps it's just water. Apparently, the guy is on good terms with this girl, because when she turns to him, Brother Chiang asks him if he has a fight planned today. The man, raising his glass of vodka and looking at the bartender's girlfriend, confirms what she said, clarifying that his fight will take place this evening. Being a bartender, this girl understands that Senzi is different from other clients. He is completely taciturn, comes almost every day, finishes his vodka, and leaves. News comes from the TV that in recent days, due to the impact of the flow of solar particles, the first zone has been attacked by insects, followed by a basic notification. Then we watch as some guy who sits next to our main character casually drinks his cocktail the color of carrot juice. The girl bartender, calling him Brother Suya, asks him if he would like to order anything else. She invites him to try their new products. Next, we watch something unexpected. While the guy reaches for another glass of alcohol, he suddenly grabs the girl's cap, leaving her without a headdress. This woman is clearly unhappy with this act. She puts her hands on her waist and tells this drunk to immediately return her cap, saying that this is not at all funny. Next, this rude guy with an unfashionable hairstyle invites this girl to join him and have a couple of drinks. The girl reminds him that she is at work. This guy continues to act nastier and nastier. He points his hand towards the girl and tells her that it is impolite to refuse an offer. While this guy continues to show everyone that he has a little more testosterone than the rest, causing a mess, our main character is still watching. This guy with a terribly awkward mohawk continues to overstep the boundaries of what is permitted by grabbing a girl by the face and demanding that she drink a couple of glasses with him. After this, Senzi still decides to intervene in this showdown. He asks the guy if he wants to join him instead of this girl. This drunk immediately lets go of the girl with red hair and, calling our main character a punching bag, tells him not to interfere, because he is only destined to endure. At this very moment, after hearing what he has heard, fire sparkles in the eyes of our main character, and he asks the boar if he really thinks so. Meanwhile, a guy named Sui Gaojian flexes his fists and asks if he came here to help him level up. The Giga Chad remains calm. Despite the fact that our main character was in a sitting position, this guy is about to make some kind of unusual blow right in the face with full swing. The guy turns out to be so cool that he stops the blow that seemed cool literally a picture ago and tells him not to touch his drink. Meanwhile, this guy continues to believe that he is something, withdrawing one hand and preparing to make a second attack. However, before the second attack of this idiot can gain speed, our main character jumps up with amazing speed and makes a powerful blow with a glass. This guy's face after being hit right in the nose with a glass is simply indescribable. But try it. His face didn't even have time to understand that it had just met the glass. The blow had enough power for everything in this guy's eyes to start spinning and distorting. He watched the blurry silhouette of Kenzi. Our protagonist took advantage of his opponent's dizziness, which is why he delivered a precise kick right to the idiot's liver. The blow had enough power for this upstart to fly off to rest to another destination. At this moment, this guy apparently decided to atone for his guilt, because during the flight he rearranged the bar, refreshed the atmosphere, and even swept the floor with his body. The girl with red hair who worked here as a bartender watched the showdown in surprise, although it looked more like a beating. After Senzi dealt with this loser, he walked out of this bar without saying a single word. While the girl was cleaning up after a recent brawl, she realized that everything that happened was similar to the plot of an old fairy tale in which the hero saves the princess. Meanwhile, the owner of a bar named Liao Shu appears on the screen, who with his arms outstretched invites everyone to have fun and put on a bartending show. The owner of the bar was ready to give his word that everyone present would get drunk. Then we watch the young bartender juggling bottles. The course of events is interrupted, and we observe how the management of the bar intends to distract the attention of the people, at which time the chubby man telephoned the security to pull him out. Next, we are transferred to the street, We watch a luxurious luxury car rushing at full speed to its destination. At this time, Budget Bane listens to criticism from his boss regarding his slow leveling this season. The boss begins to be very worried about this. Hearing criticism, the masked fighter tenses up. Asking his interlocutor if he doubts his abilities, he is told that this is by no means true, but he should train. The testosterone-fueled gorilla replies that he has already chosen the boy as a punching bag. His boss told him that in today's battle, he will be able to finish what he started. This fighter's boss continues to say that he can deal with the kid while he deals with the consequences. He also prepared gloves and new shoes for him. The chubby boss of this fighter continues to say that if he does not show progress, he will simply be eliminated, so everything is in his hands and he must show himself like a beast. Meanwhile, the pace of events accelerates, and we move to the arena where the second round will be held between Senzi and this gorilla on steroids. A guy with a medium-length hairstyle points to a guy who, apparently, is going to film what is happening, and they ask him what he is doing here. The cameraman gets up from the stands and turns to his boss and asks him to allow him to film this fight, and they will divide the profit equally. However, the boss of this cameraman calmed his ardor by saying that the rules of fighting had changed and now filming was prohibited. He asked him if he had noticed the absence of spectators. The cameraman responded to this by saying that he had heard that today there would be a massacre, and on the black market good money would be paid for filming something like this. He tried to convince that this was a way to raise money. This guy's boss was immediately attracted to the part related to money. He warned him that everything would go without nonsense, but he would take most of the profit for himself. Meanwhile, our main character's manager comes onto the stage and calls our main character talent, but today he has a bad feeling. Next, Guan Yunch is approached by the plump guy who is a gorilla manager on steroids. He reminds that 3 whole years have passed since the conclusion of the contract with the money tree. However, the man with long hair tells this fat man that the length of his contract with his client is none of his business. Manager Pai agrees that it is none of his business, but he is still interested in seeing his expression when his tree rots on the battlefield today. Guan Yongchen asks the fat man what he means, but he leaves him saying that he will see everything now, but for now he will sort out the documents. After Guan Yongchen hears alarming remarks from the manager of our protagonist's opponent, he immediately takes out his phone and calls him. Meanwhile, Tenzi has already arrived at the arena in his cloak. He answers the phone telling Mr. Guan Yongchen that he is already there and ready to fight. After some time, the two meet, and Guan Yongchen warns our protagonist that his opponent poses a danger, and he thinks that today is not worth fighting. But our main character does not want to hear his manager's attempts to dissuade him from the fight. Instead, he extends his hand and asks for an agreement to fight. The manager hands him a folder of documents and continues to tell him not to fight today, and the consent he signed can be changed. He does not want to lose his earnings. Senzi does not want to hear all this, so he silently takes the agreement to conduct the fight into his own hands and signs the agreement in the required column. After he signs the agreement for his participation in today's fight, he turns away from his manager and follows to the arena where the fight awaits him. Meanwhile, a girl with purple hair watching our main character walk away wonders how he even stands on his feet after the beating. The course of events accelerates closer to the point. The battle is about to begin. We already see on the electronic screen a banner about Bane's confrontation with our main character. Next, we watch as Bane, being in perfect physical shape like Mike Tyson at the very peak of his career, wonders if his opponent is hiding. The manager, looking at this real killing machine, wonders if this machine is going to be pumped up. He understands that this gorilla has come to kill. A judge with blonde hair, already familiar to us, approaches the fighter Yukui and informs him that the equipment he wears on his hands violates the rules of their fights. However, this time there is enough testosterone reserves to give this loser a cool answer. He raises his fist, asking if he wants to find out for himself. It is obvious that the judge, seeing in front of him a 2-meter muscular fighter with a deadly weapon, will be afraid and stop trying to fight for justice. A few moments later, our main character enters the battlefield, whom everyone already thought of as a coward who had escaped from the battlefield. The gorilla on steroids leans towards the guy, saying that the agreement could allow him to refuse the fight, but now he won't have time. Senzi was expecting an attack at that time. A moment later, the pumped-up gorilla began to strike his first blow, starting the fight with a right hook. He mentally hoped that the guy would not dodge to pump himself up. However, unlike previous battles, this time something was different. Our main character, instead of taking the blow, tried to block it with his elbow. Due to the fact that the gorilla was wearing prohibited equipment, our main character barely managed to block this heavy blow. Manager Senzi, observing such an active start to the battle, understood that if Bane had hit the tiger like that, he would have ended his life on the spot. Meanwhile, a fighter named Yukui appears on the huge screen. He is still at the second rank, and his combat skills have been upgraded by 65%. The manager of this thug also watched the battle standing in the stands, looking at the equipment. He could not help but admit that the Fortnite Battle Pass provided a useful thing. After the pumped-up gorilla landed a right hook, he continued his combination with a powerful low kick right into Senzi's stomach. Surely our main character slightly overestimated his capabilities while trying to block the blows of such a huge opponent, so he flew off to bathe in the sand. Manager Tenzi, watching the battle along with his secretary, understood that the fighter Yukui was greatly abusing his power. However, just 2 missed blows from this loser were not enough to break our fighter. He immediately began trying to get up. Looking at the huge screen, he saw that his opponent's fighting skills had just improved by as much as 5%. Now Yukui's fighting skills were 70%. The audience's expectations for Chenzi were so low that many were surprised that he simply stood up after receiving 2 blows. The arena workers were confused by the fact that Yukui's fighting skills increased by 5% from 1 kick. They also noticed that the guy was resilient. Having analyzed the situation on the battlefield with the help of his high combat intelligence, Senzi realized that he did not have enough strength to block the attacks. Even the beefy fighter Yukui admitted that our main character has very strong bones, but their battle did not end there, it was just beginning. Suddenly, the fighter Yukui suddenly remembered that at the age of 5, he went to freestyle wrestling, which is why a moment later we are watching the cleanest passage to the legs. Our main character resists by striking, but all this does not bear any fruit because the thug, ignoring the blows, lifts his opponent. After that, this abnormal fighter makes a catastrophically serious throw that causes colossal damage to Senzi's poor spinal discs. After this wildest throw, the gorilla looked at his opponent and was very surprised to see that he was still alive. He decided that he would solve this problem by striking again. The workers who watched from the stands also asked themselves the same question. Everyone was sure that the guy must lose consciousness after this series of attacks. The manager of our main character is trying to understand why his client, who has always been very weak, today does not even try to dodge the enemy's powerful blows. The course of events is interrupted, and we, leaving the arena in which the battle takes place, are transported back 3 years and watch as Senzi asks the manager for a second chance. However, the man sitting in his office replies that the guy is too frail, so he strongly doubts that he will last in battle, at least against Valorant players. Chenzi does not want to listen to this. He simply asks this man to prepare him for battle without these unnecessary questions and unnecessary predictions. The manager continues to try to dissuade the guy that in the event of his death, he will not bear any responsibility for him and his younger brother. But on this very day 3 years ago, the guy continued to stand his ground because he was confident in his decision. He convinced the man that he understood everything. Standing in front of the managers, Tenzi continues saying that if he doesn't give him a chance, it's the same as losing his Genshin Impact account or dying. Having heard a truly worthy comparison, the manager tells the guy that he managed to persuade him, and now his survival or death depended only on him. After this conversation in the past of Tenzi, we are transported back to the present time, watching as the guy continues to block powerful blows. Meanwhile, a huge board that was located in the arena notifies everyone present that Bane's combat skills have improved by 90%. After this announcement, the referee intervenes in the fight and tells the gorilla on steroids that in this arena you can only level up to 30%, so the fight is over. The gorilla is simply angry that he is not allowed to upgrade his combat rank to 100%. The judge explains by saying that this would be unfair to the enemy. Next, this monster on testosterone grabs the judge by the shirt and tells him that he most likely did not understand that no agreements bother a strong man like him. After that, this monkey throws the poor referee, who was doing his job with one hand, right against the arena fence. Afterwards, Batman's Bane looks into the stands in search of his manager, wondering what he's waiting for. Meanwhile, the fat man, who is the gorilla's manager, gives him permission to start his show by killing Chenzi. A moment later, we watch as Bane decided that he was from the Brotherhood of Assassins because a blade suddenly jumped out of his glove, just like Altair's. Immediately after the hidden blade is pulled out of the glove, the gorilla attacks Senzi, shouting at him that he is very unlucky today. Despite the very fast attack of his opponent, Senzi, thanks to his quick reaction, manages to see the blow that is rushing towards his head at speed. Meanwhile, the manager of our main character is in real shock because his money tree could rot or die right now. But this money tree does not die, but, on the contrary, is in a hurry to surprise us with the fact that a powerful attack from a steroid muscle man is stopped with his bare hands. The blow manages to stop a few centimeters from our main character, At this moment, the guy looks somewhere to the side to check something. The target of his gaze was a system window that notified him that in 2% he would achieve a new skill, but his condition was in danger. However, despite the fact that the deadly attack has been established, the opponent manages to carry out a second attack that lands directly on the target. Meanwhile, the guy's interface value changes to 99%, and he only has to make the last push to raise the long-awaited level of strength. After his first counterattack, the gorilla continues the streak with his favorite front kick right into Senzi's torso, which turns him into a plane. Immediately after this wrestler on steroids knocks down Senzi with a front kick, he uses El Primo's ult and jumps on him to finish him off. At this moment, Senzi is at a terrible disadvantage. Lying on the ground, he can only watch as a 200 kilos carcass falls on him. But unexpectedly, El Primo's jump is interrupted by a huge beetle that, breaking through the floor, pierces the head of his opponent, Senzi. Everyone who is in the arena understands that right now there has been an invasion of beetles. Everyone is running away to save themselves as best they can, because even the fighter Yukuai is dead. Meanwhile, manager Senzi remains calm and uses critical thinking to deduce that the bug invasion was caused by sounds and movements. Unlike the man, his assistant is in a panic because these creatures of the third rank easily broke through the special floor covering, and they cannot escape. A moment later, we observe a huge black beetle with blue eyes that killed the fighter Yukuya. He crawled out at full size into the middle of the arena. It so happened that our main character finds himself face to face with this huge beetle of the third rank. What will happen next? After a huge beetle notices Senzi preparing to launch a deadly attack by raising a cloud of smoke, Senzi manages to get to his feet and prepare. Much to our surprise, our main character manages to stop the attack from the huge stinger of this creature of the third rank with his bare hands. At this moment, his interface informs him that he continues to be in danger, but the activation level of his murderous flame has finally reached its maximum. Our main character immediately notices the achievement of the level, because he has been waiting for this for too long. Now is the time to test his new power. Filled with strength, Senzi looks at the huge sting that he stopped and mocks the strength of the third-rank tiger beetles that everyone was so afraid of. Next, Senzi performs a lightning strike that allows him to deprive this tiger beetle of a limb without much difficulty. The manager of our protagonist does not see anything because of the cloud of smoke after the invasion. He understands that his client is in great danger in the arena with beetles. Looking at the terrible sight of the attack of the third-rank beetles, he wonders whether anyone is even capable of fighting these monsters. Based on what we saw further, we conclude that fighting these beetles is more than easy, because Senzi cuts them down like ordinary NPCs from the forests of the League of Legends. After some time, the fog finally clears, and in the arena you can see two huge tiger beetles that have lost their heads. Seeing this, the man with long hair cannot believe his eyes. He does not understand who could kill these huge beetles. Could it really be Senzi? Next, this man looks at the camera that has been standing somewhere in the distance all this time. He concludes that he will find all the answers to his questions by looking at the recordings. Our main character at that moment somehow mysteriously disappeared from the arena. Meanwhile, the course of events is transferred to the house where the Su brothers live. After moving inside the house, we see how the bandaged man clutches his head and complains of pain. The younger brother at this time is glad that Senzi has woken up. A few moments later, Gigachad gets up from his bed and asks his brother how long he spent sleeping. The little boy replies that his brother slept for more than 20 hours. Immediately after he crossed the threshold, he immediately passed out. But he helped him. Having heard this information, the guy concludes that during the incident in the arena, he was really on the verge of death. Examining his muscular body, Senzi asks what kind of garbage is on his body, and what are these ridiculous bows on his bandages. Suyanyan is outraged by this reaction, because he took care of his older brother all day and didn't even eat anything, and he in turn is also dissatisfied with something. The guy tells his younger brother that the fact that he hasn't eaten anything is not such a big problem, because just a little more and he could have ended up in Asgard or the next world. Looking at his older brother, the little one deftly retorts by saying that he simply cannot die because he is tenacious like a damn cockroach. The older brother, according to all the canons, threatens the little one with blows, but the younger brother, looking at his brother's injuries, mocks and orders him to quickly buy him something to eat. Half an hour later, we watch as Senzi, dressed, leaves his house to get food for his younger brother and is met by his manager. Seeing a man he knows, the guy feigns surprise and asks Mr. Guan Yongqi what he's doing here. Mr. Guan looks good as always. He says that he has been waiting for a long time because he wanted to visit him. Then he hands Senzi a package saying that he brought food. The guy, without any hesitation, accepts the food that was brought to him and asks the man to stay here. saying that he will do something after which they will go to talk in another place. Apparently, the older brother brought food to the younger brother, after which we watch as these two end up in an empty nook. Tenzi asks what the master wants from him. Mr. Guan informs his client that due to the death of his rival, there are now conversations with the other party about money, so the salary is delayed. After listening to the manager, Tenzi replies that he should not delay with the money, because he urgently needs it. The manager tells the guy not to worry, because he will quickly sort everything out. Then the man in the cloak we already know moves away, telling Mr. Guan that if that's all he has to do, he'll go. But his manager stops him, because he was very worried about the issue of killing yesterday's beetles, so he asks if he is the one who dealt with them. Turning around and doing a cool heroic pose, the guy asks the manager what he's talking about. Apparently, he doesn't want to highlight his new superpowers. The manager says that the job of sparring partners is to help the fighters raise their level. While the fighters get everything, the sparring partners only exchange their lives. After listening to Mr. Guan's speech, our main character turns around and asks what the problem is then. The man with the metal arm asks Tenzi why, if he has such strength, he became a sparring partner with the opportunity to earn more as a fighter. Our main character doesn't hesitate to give this guy a detailed explanation. Instead, he briefly informs him that this is his choice. The manager continues saying that in yesterday's fight, his opponent raised his level by beating him, and he raised his level because they beat him. He saw this for the first time. Mr. Guan continued saying that yesterday they both found themselves in a dangerous situation, but the strongest survived. Then he noticed how the beetles were killed by their own claws. Then he understood everything, because in order to break a claw, you need incredible strength. Besides, his client recovers faster than ordinary people. He does not understand why he remains a loser. Our main character already knew that at that moment he had no equal opponents in this hole. He simply asked the manager what he was leading to. The manager continues saying that with his strength, he could become a fighter and earn a lot more money. They just need to change the way they cooperate. Chenzi listened to his manager's proposal and turned to leave, telling him that he needed to think carefully about this proposal. When our main character, having turned on Drake's tracks, had already moved a decent distance away, the manager shouted to him that he would wait for his answer. Mr. Guan's energetic behavior is due to the fact that he has been cooperating with this guy for more than 3 years, but he doesn't know anything. The course of events is interrupted, and after a while we watch as we again move to the night bar that is already familiar to us. Then we see how our main character, sitting in his usual place, listens to the news that a boss-level bug has been discovered, which the combat squad is already dealing with. Chenzi, as always, drinks his usual drinks and sits calmly, not talking to anyone and watching TV, because at home he does not have such luxury. Next, a girl we know, the bartender, puts a box of medicine on the counter and says that she knows about Brother Chang's injuries, so she asks him to take the medicine. Seeing this gesture of incredible kindness and listening, our main character dryly thanks the barmaid. Then he asks her what her name is. The girl, adjusting her cap, introduces herself as Lu Muji, but he can simply call her Aji. Next, the owner of this bar comes out behind the counter. He says that he heard that he was attacked by tiger beetles. Senzi briefly confirms this information. The bar owner adds that he heard that those rank 3 bugs were killed in the blink of an eye that day, which is impressive. Our main character uses his acting skills, expressing surprise and saying that if he had not run away so quickly then, he would have been able to see this. The owner of the bar folds his hands and says that his rival died, and the beetles were killed. The only one who managed to survive was him. Running fast is truly a great ability. Next, a man with a funny mustache asks the guy sitting pretentiously if he has heard about the red-tailed scolopendra that lives in Qingcai Cave. Chenzi replies that this is the first time he has heard about this, and the bar owner advises him to fight high-level monsters more often in order to level up faster. The next moment, the good-natured man hands Senzi the serum, telling him to use it at a critical moment because it is stronger than ordinary drugs. Meanwhile, we watch as the man at the price reports that today they drink, and tomorrow they will have to kill the strong after going through hellish training. This guy who wanted to look like a Viking was the captain of a war party that was recently on TV. They are going to swat a giant butterfly. After they announce the goal of defeating a huge rank 5 butterfly, they knock glasses and start drinking in honor of the great goal. Meanwhile, Aji clenches her fist and is glad that now she can raise her level by joining this combat squad, because it will be much easier. Suddenly, Aji realizes that something is wrong. She looks at the place where our main character was sitting and understands that the problem is with him. She sees how Tenzi has improved because this guy always disappears like magic. It would be nice if he also joined the butterfly hunt. Next, we watch our main character who left the bar and walked along the dark and gloomy alleys of this city. Walking past the mannequins, Kenzie thought that the bar owner was right and he really needed to kill a high-ranking insect to test his strength. But to kill an insect, he needs to apply for the qualification of killing the strong. And besides, there will be no one to watch his little brother. Entering some strange room, Kenzie realizes that he needs to carefully study the 5th rank butterfly, which was talked about so much in the night bar. The place we ended up in was the secret hideout of our main character, which was filled with a huge number of weapons of various types. Walking through his large secret apartment, for some reason she said that he really didn't have enough space, but he needed to look for something bigger. Next, the guy went to the computer and reached for the keyboard to find a video of other squads' battles with this giant butterfly. The guy immediately opens the search engine but doesn't tell us which one he's using. He enters the query giant butterfly of the 5th rank battle. Having opened the first video he came across, he concluded that the insects were of the intermediate stage of the 5th rank, and the combat squad in the video was in a difficult situation. Next, the guy began to look for information about a detachment called Tiger Roar. On the internet, it is written that this is one of the most famous detachments of the 2nd level zone that work for Canfei. After the guy analyzed the situation, he decided that he could simulate the probability of success using his killing flame system. A few moments later, we see a notification that displays that the Tiger Roar squad's chances against a rank 5 giant butterfly are only 5%. Seeing these very sad chances of the Tiger Roar squad, he decided that it would not be amiss to wonder if he could personally fight with her. After the guy tried to see his chances of defeating the giant butterfly, the system was unable to determine our protagonist's chances of winning. The guy was saddened that the system was unable to assess his chances. He realized that this was all a murky topic in which he would not get involved. Instead, he would follow the plan. Next, Kenzie went to his garage in which there was a huge armored car. He called this car his old friend. After that, the guy opened the door of his cool car and realized that after his mega cool ability was activated, it was his time to act. A few moments later, the guy climbs into his car, and then he reaches for the ignition key and starts his cool car. The destination where the Giga Chad was heading was his own house. Where his little brother was waiting for him, we are transported there. The little brother immediately met his older brother. He immediately accused him of being missing all day. He asked if he had brought any goodies. Kenzie justified himself to his brother by saying that if he had not had a good rest, he would not have returned at all, and his brother eats like a voracious cat. The little boy folds his hands in front of him and says that his gluttony is easily explained because he is a growing organism that needs to eat a lot. Having heard a whole series of arguments that this boy had clearly memorized, he got his way, because his older brother threw him a package and told him to eat quickly and not put it off. Suddenly we watch as someone comes home to our brothers twice. Judging by the hand, it's some kind of woman. Kenzie comes to the front door and asks who it is, because if they came to offer him a cheap Fortnite battle pass, he is not interested. But behind the door was Lu Muji. Hearing who is behind the door, the guy immediately opens the door and we see in front of us the same caring girl from the bar who brought those very medicines with her. The guy is surprised, he doesn't understand what she's doing here, but he's more interested in how she knows where he lives, so he asks Muji. Meanwhile, the beautiful girl replies that the bar is a kind of database, and in truth, she had to go through a real labyrinth to get here. However, the only thought that came to the head of our Giga Chad was the thought that he should think about changing housing if the bar has such information. A slightly indignant girl standing on the threshold of the apartment asked the guy if he was not at all happy about her visit. Next, our main character's younger brother intervenes in this conversation and, while eating delicious KFC chicken, invites his cute little sister to come into the house. The guy completely forgot that he left the guest of his house on the doorstep. Having heard his younger brother's reminder, he asks the girl to go to his house. Meanwhile, Yanyan, looking at the girl, calls her sister and asks her if she came to visit his older brother. The girl leans over to this little boy and begins to get to know him. She didn't know at all that our main character has a younger brother. His brother also introduced himself. Next, Muzi tells the little boy that she has always dreamed of a little brother, so he can call her little sister. The little brother really likes it. But the touching note is interrupted by a blow to the head from Kenzie, who tells his brother to first eat and then finish. But the little one defends himself by saying that he ate everything. After a while, the girl goes inside and hands over a box of medicine that, in her opinion, our main character forgot, so she came to give it back. Kenzie replies that he really accidentally forgot to take it, but he no longer needs it because he has already patched up his health to a normal state. Observing the dry emotions of our main character that constantly emanate from him, Muzi concludes that this guy is very stingy with any emotions. However, the girl's attention once again finds something else to interest her, which is why she turns her gaze away from our main character. The reason for her change of interest was little Yanyan, who at that time was sitting at the table and making various beautiful origami. Muzi, without hesitation at all, approached the younger brother of our main character, after which she picked up one of the origami and praised her brother, saying that the origami was beautiful. Yanyan turns to little sister Muzi and explains that due to the fact that his older brother is often not at home, he is constantly busy with the figures that have become his friends. The girl immediately sits down with the guy and tells him that she can also make one figurine if he wants. The guy is surprised at the girl's kindness. Having sat down at the table, the girl straightens the red sheet and asks the little boy what he wants her to make for him. At this moment, Tenzi, watching this, realizes that his brother is ready to say anything just to play with him. He wondered if they were really brothers. We are transported back to the table and watch as the beautiful waifu hands the little boy a figurine, informing him that she made him a strawberry. When my brother even saw the paper strawberry, he immediately got excited because he had not seen anything like this for a very long time, so his mouth immediately began to water. Our main character understands his brother's surprise. Because strawberries are indeed very difficult to find in the first level zone, he wonders where he can get them if his brother wants them. As Chenzi had suggested, through the use of critical thinking, his younger brother immediately approached him asking for strawberries. The guy replied to forget about it. Meanwhile, a girl with long red hair attracted attention by saying that it was already quite late outside, so she needed to leave. Little Yanyan immediately asked little sister Aji when she would come to visit them again, but it was difficult for the girl to answer such a question. Suddenly, the guy tells this waifu that his older brother doesn't have a girlfriend, so he wouldn't mind her visiting them every day. However, our main character, after hearing what his younger brother was talking about, immediately closed his mouth, asking him in a whisper what he was saying. The guy scratches his head and explains to Aji that his brother still plays Roblox. That's why he says all sorts of nonsense. He thanked the girl for the first aid kit. However, what our protagonist's younger brother said made this girl turn away and blush. Kenzie also felt awkward about it. But the girl turns around and declares to Brother Chen that she is going to, together with a tiger's roar, destroy the giant 5th-level butterfly that everyone is talking about. Hearing this very sudden announcement, our main character is surprised and asks if she is really going to go with them. Aji reports that she is really serious, and then she admits that she is still a member of the Tiger Roar group. Chenzi, upon hearing this, immediately becomes much more serious and accuses the girl of hiding her strength all this time by pretending to be an ordinary girl. Aji continues to explain that she was from the 2nd level zone, but she was eliminated, so she is looking for an opportunity to return there. The guy folds his hands and tells the girl that this giant butterfly has too high a rank, so he strongly doubts that they will be able to cope with it. The girl replies that she cannot fight alone, and besides, she does not have the support of the consortium, but with a combat detachment, she has the opportunity to earn money to rise. The only thing that remains to be said to our main character is to wish good luck to the girl in her advancement with the help of the combat squad. But Aji is not going to leave so easily. She tells Kenzi that this butterfly is valued at 100 million. She asks if he really hasn't decided to go. The guy switches back to serious Sigma mode and tells the girl in a cool voice that he's still not going to go on this raid. Hearing this, the girl is noticeably saddened because she wanted the guy to go with them, but he refused even when faced with the temptation to earn a huge amount of money. However, nothing can be done, so this girl is forced to leave the brother's apartment. We watch as she goes down the entrance we know. Transferring back to the apartment, we watch as Tsenzi silently closes the door after the visit of this waifu with long red hair. After this, the two brothers meet their gazes and silence hangs before them. Most likely they are thinking about the same thing. Then little brother Yanyan breaks the silence by asking Chenzi if little sister Ajji might be in danger because of this hunt. The guy is not going to lie to his brother, so he immediately responds that she will undoubtedly be in danger if she goes hunting for a rank 5 butterfly. Next, the younger brother asks the main character if he is going to protect her. The guy pinches Yanyan's cheek, saying why he is not so worried about him. Meanwhile, we continue to watch as Ajji, having been refused, walks alone through the gloomy streets. They realize that our main character is obviously very strong. Looking at the apartment behind where the two brothers live, she wonders why this guy, being so strong, is constantly trying to hide it. The course of events is interrupted and we are transported 3 hours forward. The weather conditions are simply disgusting. Rain, thunderstorms, and slush fall on the city streets. However, bad weather is far from the most serious problem. The main problem is the monsters on the streets that force people to flee. This is roughly what the fleas that live in Alibi look like, but seriously, we are looking at huge fleas of the 3rd rank that took the residents by surprise. However, these fleas of losers are interrupted by our main character, who, armed to the teeth, pompously arrives and asks if they will help with pumping. After a cool and necessary phrase for additional experience, our main character lunges and closes the distance with his opponent. Having sufficiently reduced the distance, our protagonist decides to start with this flea. He makes a jump in an attempt to attack from above. This attack will be crowned with success, because falling on this vile insect, our main character manages to make as many as 4 serious swings with his weapon. Our main character is very self-critical, because after carrying out a very fast attack, he calls himself too slow and moves away from the flea. Then we watch how the second flea at this time manages to appear behind the back of our main character and lunge at the back. Chenzi manages to take a safe distance and avoid the blow. He is surprised by the sudden attack performed by a stupid flea. However, having relaxed only for a moment, our main character made another mistake because at that same moment, a flea appeared behind him again and struck. The next moment, the flea delivered a powerful blow which alas did not reach the target, because Kenzi managed to disappear before receiving damage. Moving away and analyzing the situation with the help of combat IQ, he realizes that these two work very well together for brainless fleas. Finding himself between 2 huge fleas who were going to crush the soft-boiled guy, he realizes that the game has become more complicated. He was very excited. This guy had a simply amazing combat IQ that would allow him to become a top player in any language game. Realizing that he had an advantage, he made attacks. At this point, all of his attacks hit their targets, and we watch as one of the monsters slowly turns into something similar to lettuce. These amazing fleas turn out to be not deprived of intelligence. After the last flea sees how its friend was dealt with, it begins to tremble. Immediately after this, she turns around and tries to escape from the battlefield, but our main character does not intend to let the monster go, so he begins the chase. Possessing a colossal speed of attacks, our main character has no difficulty in making a barrage of attacks on the run, thereby dealing with the monster. Meanwhile, the course of events moves to the time after the rain. We observe some strange, even mystical buildings. Approaching one of these strange buildings, we observe a tower called the Bell of God, at the very top of which is Tsenzi. Having taken a point from which there is a good view, and where he is unlikely to be attacked, our main character opens the interface to see good things. However, having opened the menu, our main character observes a similar picture as in the new part of the Assassins. Where everything is closed, he cannot afford to buy anything due to the low level. Next, another notification opens in front of the guy, which congratulates him on killing 2 monsters. They offer him 10,000 yuan as a reward. However, our main character understands that by killing monsters he gains very little experience and money. He wonders how much more time it will take to move to the second zone. Sitting on the roof and looking at the city, the guy understands that the invasion of insects of the first level has become more frequent, and it is unsafe here. He really wanted to escape from here with his brother. Reflecting, our main character comes to the wise thought that only by fighting to the death can one overcome all the difficulties that haunt someone. Meanwhile, the course of events switches to the manager of our main character, who at this moment is busy signing some documents. Then his work is interrupted by a phone call. The same Agent Patao who was the manager of the deceased fighter calls him. The guy asks what he wanted. The reason for the call was that after the death of the fighter Yukuyu, Mr. Du from the Liar Corporation wants to meet with our main character. He offers money for this. Mr. Guan informs the fat man that his client is no longer a sparring partner, and that on that day the fighter Yukui did not die at the hands of our protagonist. However, Agent Patao continues to try to get a contract with our main character. He openly declares to Mr. Guan that he is going to bribe him. Mr. Guan replies that Senzi is his money tree. He says that if they are trying to bribe him with a measly commission of 50,000, perhaps they despise him. Agent Patao continues to try to bribe. He says that if the process is accelerated, he will give him 1 million. He makes an offer and says that he will wait for an answer. Meanwhile, our main character enters his manager's office and, approaching the table, patiently waits for the conversation to end. The conversation between the two ends. Seeing Tsenzi, this man with long hair says that he really wanted to see him. Our main character believes that they are on the same business. While pouring our main character a glass of water or vodka, the manager informs him that the Luguan Corporation is offering to enter into a contract with him. He calls this an excellent opportunity. Meanwhile, Tsenzi asks if this is the same corporation that his last rival who died worked for. The manager replies that this is the same company, and they can help. Luguan Corporation cultivates fighters through sparring and injections, and then it promotes them to the next zone, even though this is a good chance, but they fighters may lose their humanity. The manager turns out to be an honest and straightforward person. He tells Tsenzi that for his first nomination, he will receive 1 million, but of course everything depends on him. However, our main character interrupts and apologizes for this, saying that he can give him a commission equal to 5 million. This makes the manager surprised. The main character confirms his words by saying that in return, he must help him submit an application to kill strong monsters. The surprised manager of our main character asks if he is serious. He asks the guy where he got such a lot of money. However, before answering, GigaChad shows a man with long hair 2 fingers, saying that he has only 2 conditions. The first condition was that at the beginning, he would pay the manager 500,000 yen in advance, and he would give the rest when he returned after the task. The second condition was that he would have to look after his brother for a week, so that nothing would happen to him. The manager of our main character could not help but ask him where he suddenly got so much money, with which he always had problems. Chen-zi, sitting comfortably on the sofa, said that it did not matter, because he would not offer money if there was none. The manager asked what would happen if he refused. Our main character, in response to this, looked at the man with long hair and said that he was the only person he could trust with something important. Mr. Guan frowned and told our main character not to classify him as a good guy, because he is just a businessman who has integrity. He agreed with the first condition, but there may be problems with the second because in their unsafe times it is very difficult to ensure someone's safety, but he will agree if the commission increases. Mr. Guan was willing to agree to look after our protagonist's younger brother for 10 million yuan. Chen-zi immediately agreed. After the manager of our protagonist heard the answer, he was forced to fulfill the conditions because he agreed, which means there is no turning back. A man with long hair stood in front of our main character and asked him whose murder he wanted to apply for. Putting on the most serious face of the GigaChad, the guy replied that he needed an application to kill a giant butterfly of the 5th rank, because of which everyone is on their ears. After our main character announces his conditions, the course of events is interrupted, and we are transported back to the house where the Su brothers live. Then, moving inside, we watch as our main character puts away his entire meager and uniform wardrobe. His younger brother immediately became interested in what his elder brother was doing. He asked if he was leaving with his waifu sister Aji. The guy answered yes. After hearing the answer of our protagonist, little Su Yanyan's mood immediately rises because he understands that his older brother will be able to protect her. Continuing to pack his things, he asked the little one if he really wasn't worried at all about the life of his older brother. The little one immediately replies that there is no point in worrying about him, because as always he will get out of any situation, because he is tenacious like a cockroach. Little Yanyan, switching to the language of facts, tells his older brother that the girl made him strawberries and he wants her to make him all sorts of goodies again. Sometime later, after a lengthy preparation of the suitcase, we observe the finally finished luggage of our protagonist. Next, we watch as the guy stands at the exit, and his younger brother waves his hand wishing him good luck on a difficult hunt. Chenza warns the little one that this time he is leaving for a long time, so he packed his things for a reason, because he will live with Mr. Guan Yunqi. However, the little boy knew this and continued to show with all his appearance that he was ready. Meanwhile, the guy, pretending to be serious, began to leave. Watching how little Yanyan walks slowly, he asks him why he walks so slowly when leaving the apartment. The reason for the boy's slow walk was his joy, because for the first time in 2 whole years he had not left the apartment, so he was glad to cross the threshold. After some time, the course of events moves forward and we are transported to the entrance to the house of Mr. Guan Yunqi. Our main character warns his younger brother that while he is away, he should not run away anywhere because otherwise he will not be well. After Tsenzi escorted his brother to the right apartment with a person whom he completely trusts, he begins to leave, thinking about something. Having provided security and housing for his younger brother, he realizes that he has reduced the number of problems by 1. The course of events is once again interrupted, and we are again transported to the secret base of our main character, filled with a variety of weapons. We then watch as the doors of the garage that belongs to Chen-zi's secret hideout slowly open, a rather noisy process. After the garage opens to a sufficient height, the old but no less cool car of our protagonist, previously familiar to us, comes out of it. Then we watch as this Batmobile cuts through the streets of a gloomy city. It is clearly in a hurry, as if there is a discount on Pepsi at the nearest store. However, the real reason for our protagonist's haste was his application to kill a giant butterfly, because he recently learned that his application was able to pass the test. Continuing to direct us to our destination, we are brought up to date. An application for the murder of a giant butterfly, its level is boss, its body length is 15 meters, its weight is as much as 30 tons. Watching the live broadcast, we learn that 5 teams that were sent to fight this monster were defeated, and the 6th will start the battle right now. Meanwhile, the course of events is interrupted and transferred to the house of Mr. Guan Yunqi, where the younger brother Chen-zi is now located. Sitting in his bedroom, the younger brother asks if he sealed the windows so that he would not escape. The gentleman replies that this was done for his own safety. A little boy sitting on the bed looks indignantly at the manager, telling him that he just got rid of his brother and was locked in the room like a dog. However, Mr. Guan immediately explained to the little one that now his task is to protect him, but he will also take care of himself. The resourceful guy then asked the manager why, in this case, he didn't seal all the windows in his house and so on. This long-haired, handsome guy replies that at the moment, no one is threatening him, and in addition, he knows a little kung fu and can stand up for himself. Hearing such an answer, the little one's mood rises. He notices that the uncle behaves with him like a 3-year-old child. He asks him to play outside. The guy folds his arms and closes his eyes and tells the boy that he wants too much. He doesn't want it otherwise from his older brother. 2 hours later, the course of events is transferred to the playground. The manager's secretary informs him that this child has been playing for more than an hour. Mr. Guan shouts that if he had known about this earlier, he would have raised the price and Senzi would have refused, but now he had to hire 3 bodyguards at his own expense. Meanwhile, our little one, you might say the main character, was swinging on the carousel and asked the manager to come up and swing him. Hearing this request, the guy puts his hand on his face and realizes that he made a 100% mistake. Meanwhile, he was heading towards the small one. Next, we watch a cute scene of a stern businessman asking a little boy to hold on tight, after which he quickly swings him. The boy rejoices. While riding on the carousel, the guy shouts that Manager Guan is 100 times cooler than Senzi, and maybe even 1,000 times. He understood that his brother needed to be taught something. Meanwhile, the girl with purple short hair who was watching this scene noticed that the always serious Mr. Guan looked different next to the child. Next, this girl realizes that she and Mr. Guan have been colleagues for many years, but she has never heard mention of her family. She wondered where his relatives are. Meanwhile, the course of events is again transferred back to the action zone, where the hunt for the monster is taking place. 4 cars belonging to the Tiger Roar squad are going somewhere. This combat squad believes that if they are armed to the teeth, they will easily cope. Besides, the 6th team should have already exhausted the butterfly. Despite the fact that this giant butterfly had destroyed as many as 5 teams before, these simpletons believed that if they had a charismatic commander with them, then they had nothing to fear. Next, the driver of an armor-piercing vehicle with blonde hair asks his sister Aji if Commander Yang is always so brave, because there is no place where he won't go. However, instead of directly answering the driver's question, the girl reports that at this speed they will only reach Mount Kuyue in 3 hours. Meanwhile, little sister Aji looks out the window, and despite the fact that our main character refused to go with them, she hopes that he will join them. These 4 armor-piercing vehicles continued their confident movement. They sent out many clouds of dust behind them. But suddenly a huge tiger beetle crawls out of the ground. We have already seen similar huge beetles when the incident happened in the arena. Commander Yang, noticing this huge beetle, asks his squad for a tiger roar, how can it be heard, in order to convey information to them. The situation is reported to the commander, saying that half an hour ago the 6th team was destroyed, and Mount Kuyue was chosen as a target for a nuclear strike. In connection with the nuclear strike, the corporation orders the combat detachment to be proclaimed. The commander is simply furious. He asks if they have gone crazy, because of the strike he is only mutating, becoming stronger. Commander Yan is informed that the nuclear strike has already been activated and cannot be cancelled, and the headquarters gave the command to all surviving units to immediately return back right now. One of the soldiers asks the commander what they will do next now, because their superiors ordered them, roughly speaking, to flee from the battlefield. Commander Yang tells the soldier that they will continue to attack the monster, because if they do not kill the butterfly now, next time it will bring more problems. A soldier with a shaved head asked Commander Yang what they would do if the organization accused them of inheriting an order. The commander of the combat detachment reports that they have been preparing for today's battle for too long, so they simply cannot leave the battlefield. Meanwhile, we observe a nuclear warhead on its way to contact the Earth and for the planned destruction of the monster. These thoughtless soldiers continued to go kill a monster of enormous size, despite the fact that a warhead that was already in flight was flying right above them. After some time, we watch the warhead fall to the ground, but instead of a nuclear explosion, some kind of weak explosion occurs. One of the soldiers, observing the explosion through binoculars, tells his leader that something strange is happening, and the explosion of a nuclear bomb is very weak. The nuclear explosion was weak due to the fact that this huge butterfly monster had already absorbed all the energy from the warhead, which is why, as the commander feared, the creature began to mutate. After some time, the soldiers realized that this damn monster, which already destroyed 6 teams, has now absorbed nuclear energy and become even more powerful. Next, we watch as all members of the combat squad get out of their cars and move towards a terribly strong monster mutated. Commander Yang, using basic logic, understands that after absorbing nuclear energy, this monster probably no longer belongs to the 5th rank. It is now incalculably strong. Then disagreements began between the team members. They wondered whether they should continue moving, but if they return, they will be defeated. But going to death is also stupid. This group of soldiers came to the conclusion that if they were already on the battlefield, they could at least try to do something. Next, we observe a monster butterfly that has become incredibly strong. We know that thanks to the absorbed energy, the monster has reached the 7th rank of strength. Commander Yang, observing the movements of the butterfly, understands that in any case it must evolve due to nuclear energy. If this monster reaches rank 6, they still have some chance of winning, but if this monster reaches rank 7, then sending soldiers into battle means killing them. Common sense awakens in the commander's head. He orders them to shut up and listen. Because of this situation, their strategies and skills are useless. They can only return. However, Oni-chan Aji simply could not accept such a shameful return. She told her fellow soldiers that she could not accept it. The girl gets out of the car to tell the commander that now they have the opportunity that they have been waiting for a very long time. They simply cannot give up in this way. A guy with a shaved head asks the girl if she wants the whole squad to go to their graves, but the girl continues to stand her ground. Meanwhile, the driver with blonde hair says that he supports Aji because from the moment they arrived, they should at least try. Because of this girl, arguments began between the participants. One side wanted to follow the leader's plan and retreat to save their lives. The other side supported the girl, saying that they should try. Their lively debate is interrupted by a familiar car that is driving right at them. Our main character, Tsen-Su, arrived at the scene of the showdown just in time. The puzzled Commander Yang closes his eyes from the headlights and is at a loss about who could come to them in the combat zone. After some time, the car stops and our main character gets out of it, mocking the combat squad, or rather their cowardice. The girl with long red hair is most happy to see Brother Jiang. She smiles widely and says his name. Despite the fact that the girl hoped for the arrival of our main character, she asks him why he came. He said that he came to carry out a mission. He also accepted an application to kill the monster. The conversation between Aji's little sister and our main character is interrupted by the commander's testosterone levels rising, and him asking who the hell he is. Chenzi replies that who he is not important now. The important thing is that he can help them exterminate the butterfly that has mutated. Baring his teeth and making an angry grimace, the commander asks the guy why he is going to help them. Chenzi replies that his help will not be free. After they are finished with the monster, he wants to receive half of the reward for killing the monster. The bald guy jumped out again asking if they failed, he would die with them, wouldn't he? For some reason, he was angry. Our main character raised his hand and laughed. He said that he forces them to risk their lives. It's enough that they are just witnesses. He will do the rest. The girl with red long hair at this moment felt a strange sensation in her chest. Something gave her a feeling that gave her strength after Chenzi's speech. Meanwhile, Gary Potter, or the driver of the strike force, waved his hand to our main character, wishing him good luck in this battle. Then our main character continued on his way to the butterfly. He wondered why he couldn't see it, because he just needed to go and check the situation. The guy understood that for his own safety and the successful completion of the mission, he simply needed to do everything as quickly as possible so that problems would not arise. Next, we watch the car of our main character, who is in search of a monster. Meanwhile, he is informed that the monster has mutated and its rank is now higher than stated. We move to real time, in which our main character had to quickly check the situation. He threw a flashlight on the ground to see what was in front of him. A frightening sight opened before him. There were a bunch of eggs all over the cave. Our main character realized that due to nuclear energy, reproductive ability had increased. Further, while staying in the cave in which the same monster was supposed to be located, the main character wondered whether this monster could not have died. After a few moments, he realized that he did not have enough time, so he had to go downstairs and check everything with his own eyes. While examining this not very large cave, Tenzi asked a logical question whether a giant butterfly could even fit into this cave. Having walked some distance, our main character finally found the monster, or to be more precise, what became of it as he expected. Everything is not so simple. Looking at the monster, the guy realized that thanks to nuclear energy, the butterfly evolved and received a human form. He could not even imagine what chance there was for this event. In addition to the fact that the monster that was an unreasonable butterfly received a human body, it also received consciousness as a bonus. Then this monster in the form of a man decided to turn back because she felt the presence of a person in her cave. Our main character immediately hid behind some stone, thereby avoiding the monster noticing him. It was very close. Surely this guy once played stealth games because his ingenious attempt to hide helped him, and the butterfly lost all doubts because it turned back again. Then, for some reason, this monster approached some strange spherical sphere and began to circle around it, picking up speed. Watching this strange ritual, he realized that after the monster laid eggs, it continued to live. Moreover, it received a human form. He should have been more careful. Next, this girl stood in front of this sphere, and calling it a meteorite stone, she began to call it her pearl of life, because this thing helped her survive and take on a new form. At this moment, watching these oddities, our main character was completely confused and did not even know what to think about, because he certainly did not expect such nonsense. Next, the guy comes out of his hiding place and tells the girl that it was probably not in vain that he believed that the monster began to have a higher rank after the incident with radiation. The butterfly girl then turned around and looked at our main character. She called him brave for coming here. She also said that he should prepare to die. However, Senzi, keeping the Sigma calm, replied that he never thought about dying on this mission. But there was one important thing. After this, the guy made a lightning attack on the monster, saying that one of the monster's judgments was wrong, because he was not interested in the strange stone, and he had come to kill her. This monster easily stopped the attack of our main character and asked if he was really going to kill her until her children hatched and she was going to play with him. Next, the girl looked at our main character and laughed provocatively, asking why he was so weak and frail. After she easily repelled the albeit quick attack of our main character, she turned on the serious mode, saying that now it was her turn to act. Next, this girl, who doesn't even have any weapons, pointed her bare hand towards our main character. Spikes followed her hand. She ordered the boy to die. A simple light blow from this person was enough for our main character, who looked confident, to now look like a loser because he went flying to the wall. Using the high value of combat intelligence, the guy realized that the power of this butterfly is too great, and it is in no way comparable to the power of past insects with which he dealt. However, what happened next surprised our main character even more. An ordinary monster who usually has access to normal attacks used a spell to attack our main character. Her attack was her skill. She took the guy by surprise because usually monsters do not have any abilities, but this one especially sent a bunch of arrows that flew in unison. The flight of these arrows was so fast that even our main character, having very fast reflexes, saw her attack only at the very last moment. By some miracle, he still managed to somehow escape the attack, but this was the first attack in the entire manhwa from a monster that was able to inflict at least some, albeit minor, damage on him. Our main character understood that he was lucky that he managed to understand what this person's ability was, so he managed to get away from her. However, this person was so powerful that she could afford to immediately launch a second barrage of attacks. She told him that his trick would not work the second time. This person was confident in her second attack with the help of skills. She told the guy not to resist and receive this attack, and then die after serving as food for her children. The girl once again remembered that this weak man had just recently told her that he was going to kill her. For her, it was a joke because he was too weak for that. However, unlike the guy who could not carry out his words, she could kill him, after which she continued to attack our main character. While launching the attack, she said that it would be very easy for her to kill this person. It would be comparable to casually killing an ordinary fly. After this cool speech, Senzi received another heavy attack that he was forced to take. This strength was incredible. He could not even imagine this level of strength. Having touched his ribs, the guy understood that this monster, thanks to a couple of his attacks, was able to break 2 whole bones for him. He understood that everything was leading to the fact that he had to take a risk. Next, the guy began to dare this butterfly, saying that unfortunately he was not some ordinary weak fly. He told her to call him Brother Jiang. The monster that the giant butterfly had turned into made a quick lunge towards the guy, saying that Brother Jian would soon go to another world. The guy told this idiot that she was acting so arrogantly because she did not yet know what real power and strength looked like. Next, our main character decided that since he lacks simple raw power, he compensates for this with high combat intelligence, so he threw dirt towards the monster with his blade. All the dirt that was sent by the blade of our protagonist went straight into the eyes of the monster, temporarily depriving him of the ability to see anything. With the help of this incredible trick, which our main character immediately took advantage of, he struck with a huge swing directly at the monster. This blow fell directly on the monster's stomach, opening a wound there. It brought hellish pain to this monster, which had not previously experienced pain. At this moment, the monster was in complete confusion. It did not understand how this guy could accelerate so sharply and reach such an incredible speed. Meanwhile, the guy had already run up and was already in the process of making a jump. He told the monster that if she thinks that he is only fast, then she is mistaken. After making the jump, our main character performed a very powerful kick that literally grounded this idiot who considered herself the strongest. The girl was seriously wounded in the stomach. Standing up on her own feet, she does not understand how, being a person, anyone could have such anomalous power. Next, our main character decided to cosplay as Itadori Yuji and slowly walk towards his victim, telling her to now prepare for her death. This monster after a while admitted that she had indeed underestimated this person, but now she used full steel armor, making herself invulnerable to attacks. Next, we observed the same steel armor that the monster girl was talking about just recently. Steel plates actually appeared everywhere on her body. In response to this, our main character only tightened his grip on his sword, telling the monster that his advantage was also now his weakness. He led to the fact that her steel armor became a big burden for her. But this steel armor, which according to the monster made her invulnerable, was like a promise not to present an apple. Because in reality, everything was different, and our main character cut off the monster's hand. At this time, the monster in the form of a butterfly began to panic because this guy really began to cause serious damage to her with his blows, which previously only amused her. Meanwhile, the guy continued to think with his own head in order to deliver another cool blow. He understood that if he was not strong enough, then he should not have poked his nose in here. In the next frame, we watch as this terrifying creature of the 8th rank of strength goes crazy. They begin to scream that they will kill this unfortunate person right now. Next, this monster once again used its ability in the form of a flurry of magic arrows. The guy, while in flight, asked if she understood that he forced her to use this ability. Easily repelling the arrows with his sword, the guy repeated his words that this attack, as he had said before, was useless against him. So the monster needed to give up and die. The main character continued by saying that the moment she finishes using her steel purple needles, she will immediately die. After hearing this, the monster girl intentionally stopped her barrage of steel needles and asked the guy if he was celebrating his victory too early. Further, our main character suggested that he really was in a hurry. He wondered if it could be that this creature had other abilities. A few seconds later, the body of the butterfly monster began to drain some very suspicious pink pollen. The main character, noticing this, jumped away from it as quickly as possible. At this moment, the opponent of our main character, looking straight at him, smiled and said that now it was too late for him to do anything. After all, the monster at that moment used its new ability, which was called the illusion of the butterfly monster. The hero was shocked. After some time, the fighting spirit left the body of our main character, and his eyes began to slowly close. Apparently, this was the effect of the ability. Then our main character found himself in some other world, or he was already under the influence of the monster's illusion because he saw some unusual purple clouds. Watching the sun begins the story that when solar energy ran out, people became greedy and dug out their own underground world. With its rash actions, humanity activated a plan called the Sun of the Core. The rules of the world were then created anew. In order to reduce energy loss, people invented zones of 9 ranks, and based on these ranks, they decided to separate these zones. Selfish people like our protagonist were separated from other creatures, and the insects were heartlessly abandoned by selfish people. After this, the butterfly tribe sacrificed their dazzling brilliance in order to forge an artifact that could live and allow them to enjoy the pleasure of sunlight. Having created ideal conditions, they never thought that because the light was too bright, other races would also come to them to steal their artifact. That is why they had no choice but to divide their artifact into 9 pearls. They were awarded to the 9 participants in the Butterfly War who were the strongest. Our main character, after listening to this story, would never have thought that their artifact would have the same meaning as the core of the earth for people. Next, 9 warriors who were given parts of the artifacts brought life to the pearl and fled in search of a suitable place. The butterfly girl continued by saying that their tribe went through really difficult trials and times. They experienced a lot of ups and downs, but they swore to protect the pearls with their lives. Suddenly, the guy, too carried away by this girl's story, realizes that all this time he was under the influence of the effect that was used on him. That is, an illusion. Next, the monster approaches the guy to whisper in his ear that he has been in an illusion all this time, so he will learn the secret of their butterfly race, but he must feel honored and die here. After our main character had heard enough educational stories about the race of butterflies and other nonsense, his body was pierced with steel needles. After some time, our main character comes to his senses and screams heart-rendingly in pain because he was doomed to receive this injury after falling into an illusion. Meanwhile, the girl in front of him called him an ordinary stupid person who, because he lost concentration, fell into her ability. This is the place where he should die. After some time, a beast wakes up inside our main character, looking at this fool who has already said too much and, thanks to this, crept up on him. The monster girl confirmed the guy's words, saying that she really told everything to sneak up on him. Now he will suffer from bleeding until he dies. Even God will not save him. As our main character said earlier today, he had no plans to die, so he took hold of the steel needles with his bare hands to pull them out. He admitted that the monster was very cunning. Continuing to pull steel needles out of himself, our main character was forced to tell this idiot something important that would most likely greatly upset her. Taking out 2 steel spikes from his body and taking them like twin daggers, the guy said that this garbage couldn't even kill him. He lunged towards the butterfly. A moment later, we watch as Kenzie uses his super fast speed to close the distance and pierce the monster's chest with its own weapon. The actions of our main character were carried out so quickly that only we could make them out. Unlike this poor thing who was confused by the speed. Having stuck this bloody thorn back to the sender, the guy asked if she felt it well, but she shouldn't worry because he would return the rest of the thorns. Next, our main character makes the second blow in his series by piercing this idiot's eye with her bloody spike. He told her that without eyes, she won't be able to worry about the light. The wounded monster girl shouted to the guy saying that she couldn't let him do this, because in their fantasy, butterflies would dominate pitiful humanity. While dying, the monster said that it was not dying at all. Instead, it would continue to exist with its life inside the pearl that it protected at the cost of its life. After this monster was finally defeated, our main character finally exhaled heavily because this battle was indeed very difficult. The guy admitted that this time he was quite close to death, but he was very lucky because he was able to prepare for this fight in advance. This played a role in his victory. Next, Senzi lifts up his t-shirt under which there are literally steel abs. Seriously, this guy put a damn metal plate under his t-shirt. After the guy finally took off the piece of armor that he had been wearing all the time, he admitted that these bloody spikes were really strong, and if he didn't have the armor, he would have already died here. The guy felt so bad after this fight that he was shaking all over. He got up and headed to the pearl to find out what this stone was. Having barely reached this magical stone, our main character pointed his hand towards it and wondered whether the monster's consciousness was now inside. After our main character reached out to this pearl, it shrank to such a size that it would fit perfectly into our main character's hand. After our main character picked up this pearl, a system window appeared in front of him that asked him if he wanted to continue with the life pearl. Our main character points his finger at the option, and the system display disappears into thin air. Then the system congratulates him on the fact that the item was successfully added to his inventory. Looking around, our main character realized that the only thing left after this very strong monster was pearls. He didn't even see any money here. Meanwhile, we move to a part of the cave in which there is a whole bunch of eggs laid by this monster. They all begin to shake violently. After a couple of moments, the shells of these eggs begin to break, and a huge number of different insects crawl out of them, which even now pose a threat. After our main character, looking up, realizes that the whole ceiling is shaking, he understands only one thing. His mission here is not over yet. Bandaging his wounds so as not to suffer from blood loss, the guy understands that what is happening above, judging by the sounds, is something very bad. Meanwhile, the guy finds one of the bloody spikes that remained on the battlefield, and with the help of bandages, he makes himself a baraka from Mortal Kombat. Having finally turned into a barracks, our main character runs off to solve new problems. He even took off his t-shirt to create bandages. Having reached the source of the noise, the guy saw in front of him not small, harmless bugs, but a whole army of huge beetles that were ready to cause him a whole bunch of problems. Our main character, standing in front of them, was firmly determined that he would not let a single beetle out of this cave alive, and then a tough mess should begin. Then the course of events is interrupted and we are transported outside. Meanwhile, there is again a Tiger Roar detachment, which is located not so far from the scene of action. Meanwhile, the commander of this useless detachment asks the computer whether our main character has obtained at least some information, or whether there is still no signal. The soldier standing behind informs his commander that attempts to restore the signal are all in vain, and they are completely cut off not only from Senzi, but also from the outside world. Even the walkie-talkie that they gave to our main character has not given any signs of life for quite a long time. They still cannot contact anyone. Several hours have already passed since our main character went to kill the monster. They conclude that our main character is most likely already dead. The tonsured soldier informs the commander that the boss's aura has not yet disappeared, and this may mean that this loser was not able to kill the boss after all. If they continue to stay here, they will be in danger. Meanwhile, Gary Potter, standing next to the girl with red hair, asks why don't they send 2 people to check the situation inside the cave. Another soldier explains to Harry Potter that the reason is obvious, because no idiots would agree to go into the cave in order to become dinner for the monster. The soldier finds meaning in the words of the previous soldier, because after absorbing nuclear energy, the monster received a level increase. Even if their number is doubled, they are unlikely to be able to defeat it. Meanwhile, the commander of the most useless squad in the world gives an order to a soldier to immediately gather all the squad members together. However, the girl with red hair again stands up for our main character, saying that they promised him that they would wait for the signal, because they cannot just leave without breaking their promise. Harry Potter once again supports the girl by again defending her words, because if something happened to the guy, simply leaving would be an inhuman decision. Next, the commander of this detachment raises the tone of his voice and orders the soldiers to stop arguing now, because they do not have time to continue to be in the danger zone. He continues by saying that he is confident in his decision, and his opinion will not change, because he decided to pointlessly not engage in battle when it will not bear any fruit. The girl with red hair still doesn't dare to give up. She says that she believes in the strength of our main character, they just need to wait a little longer for him. Commander Yang is trying to convince the girl that she can and believes in Chenzi, but he does not believe in him. They have already been waiting for him for 8 hours. If he delays even longer, their situation will worsen. This girl simply cannot accept the fact that she will leave her friend alone in this terrible place. She will forgive him at least a little just to wait. The commander becomes angry. He shouts at the girl, saying that there is no reason to believe that this child can cope with the situation, because he is most likely already dead. The girl understands that from now on, no one will support her in her decision. She only says with a sad face that this is not the first time that guys leave her. Commander Yoon orders this girl to stop. He demands that the soldiers provide her with transport in order to release her from the field of action. The girl, who is left all alone in a quiet voice, thanks the commander of the most useless team of warriors in the world. Commander Yan, before climbing into the armor-piercing vehicle, says that he knows that she has a good reputation, but he cannot sacrifice others for her sake. Harry Potter clearly wants something from our main character, because he raises his hand and informs the leader of the squad that he too is poisoning himself with his sister. Next, we watch as these only two who believe that our main character is alive go to his aid. The guy with glasses asks if she believes in what else is there. The girl does not answer the question. Instead, she asks the guy if he is scared. The guy doesn't want to lie, which is why he answers that he is really scared. The sister is confused after hearing such an answer. She asks the guy why, if he was scared, he went with her for Tsenzi. Having stopped the car, the guy with glasses says that he, like her, does not want to lose the chance to increase the level, because he has long been the weakest in the team. If he does not become stronger, he will be eliminated. The girl, after listening to this guy's nonsense, hits him on the shoulder, saying that she most likely understood him. She invites him to work hard together. Looking out the window, the sister reports that they should not be scared, because even if they fall into a trap, she is sure that our main character will sort everything out. Next, Harry Potter, who is driving the car, turns to the cool waifu and asks her what she is going to do after she increases her rank. After the girl uses the eyes of the huntress, she tells the guy that after increasing her rank, she will immediately return to the second zone to her parents. She must get there as soon as possible. The course of events in this stuffy and incomprehensible arc is finally interrupted, and we are transported 2 whole years ago, watching as some man hits the table with all his might. In front of us is the very current squad leader. He scolds the girl for the fact that the barbarians destroyed their 2 brothers. If this continues, their team will receive critical damage. Next, the girl, already in a familiar image, asks the squad leader how many people they want to change this time. The commander replies that they are being asked to replace 3 people in their squad, which was then useless, but now they only need 1. Next, the girl, awkwardly squeezing her hand, suggests that he let her into the team as the last one they need at the moment. After some time, we watch as the squad leader, leaning back in his chair, tells the girl that during the conversations, everyone decided that she should leave. The girl is simply furious that everyone decided to kick her out. She reports that they were guided only by her fighting skills. This has nothing to do with that. However, this guy, thinking that he is in the edit, answers the girl apologizing that his squad only needs combat-ready fighters. They can only abandon the weakest participants. However, the commander of the actually useless detachment reports that if he remains in the second zone, then he will take care of her parents. The girl at this moment is in confusion. After a few minutes, the girl realizes that she cannot do anything to return to the squad, so she asks the commander to take care of her parents. After 3 days later, the girl was forced to say goodbye to her parents. She left the second zone and ended up in the first shameful zone, but she couldn't even cry. Once she got into the first zone, she understood what kind of rules were established in it, and that's how she ended up in that very night bar. It was at this moment in her life that this girl realized that she could protect herself and her family members, not only with the help of tears. This was a turning point in her life. She realized that only with absolute power could she protect herself and her family members. Next, we observe how a girl who stood firmly on her plan decided to return to the second zone to her parents as quickly as possible. But for this, she had to become stronger. Meanwhile, the course of events is transferred to the present time. We watch as the girl and Harry Potter stumble upon something very strange that makes them very surprised. Stopping in front of a huge crowd of corpses, they see our main character who killed a huge crowd of insects, and he was also sitting with his torso bare. After our main character appears in the field of view of this girl, she immediately looks out of the car, smiles widely, and is happy that she has finally found Brother Sue. The guy also raises his hand to greet the guys, but he wonders why there are only two of them when they agreed to wait for him together. After these two stop their car and get out of it, our main character does exercises, saying that if they had appeared a little later, he would have already left. Next, our main character, standing in front of these two, repeats his question, asking why there are only two of them here. But these two find it difficult to answer this question. A girl with red hair, I forgot her name, points to a crowd of dead insects and asks if he killed all these insects. Harry Potter is also in shock. It is immediately clear from the girl that she is very happy that Senzi is alive. She tells him that she always knew that he was strong, but she did not know that he was so strong. Meanwhile, our main character understands that this whole situation looks like only these two broke away from the squad, while the squad went back. Next, our main character points to the cute little insect that was with him all this time while he was waiting. He said that he left the weakest and smallest one for the commander to arrive. However, this little insect hides behind our main character's leg and prays that they don't kill him. This little caterpillar considers these two to be scarecrows. The girl, looking at this little misunderstanding, says that she simply cannot take such a life, so she shifts this responsibility to someone else. Next, Harry Potter turns on his Sigma side and, creating a gloomy look, he takes out his hunting dagger and tells the worm that he better not make him angry. However, even Harry Potter cannot kill such a pitiful creature, because this little caterpillar again begins to cry and beg for salvation anywhere. The guy explains by saying that this worm is too cute, and he simply cannot take the life of such a cutie, because it is just a small child. Our main character understands that these two losers can't even deal with this little fool, which is why he turns on the hunter's eyes and says that he himself will deal with this monster. However, a moment before his death, the little worm calls our main character the most terrible person in the area. He invites him to sit down and chat instead of violence. Leaving his knife, our main character wonders why he too could not kill this small and weak creature. This makes him think seriously. The muscular guy sits down in front of the cute little worm and says that today they cannot leave him alive, so he is left with the option of killing himself. Our main character simply cannot get rid of this poor worm. He proposes to save him from life through joint efforts and then eat him. Then this little green friend begins to run away somewhere. A girl with red hair is chasing him, asking him where he is going. The cute little caterpillar stops and tells the girl that she felt an unusual special aura in her body. The little caterpillar looked more closely at her sister and said that when she sees her, she feels as if she has some special destiny together with her. Next, we watch how this little caterpillar became what it is. It began with the fact that it was a cocoon that hoped that its choice was not wrong. After the cocoon process, it petrified, thereby stopping its development for a long time, and that's all it sounded from the mouth of a small but seemingly honest caterpillar. A girl with long red hair, listening with interest to the story of this insect, had doubts when she heard about becoming a stone. Suddenly, we watch non-existent memories as our main character, being beaten, tells the girl to leave this cocoon alone. The girl, after her brother's request, removes her hands from this pebble or cocoon after listening to her brother Jian. Meanwhile, we are transported to more important events, and to be more precise, to the murder of a 5th-rank butterfly at the hands of our main character. Next, we watch as a notification from the system appears above our main character's head, congratulating him for killing 5 butterflies and thousands of insects. A few seconds later, we see the interface of our main character. During all this time, he has reached the 2nd level of his skill and pumped up all his attributes by 1 unit. Against the background of a notification that informed our protagonist that awards had been sent to him, he confidently took the position of a superhero. Suddenly, our main character receives a notification on his phone that 100,000 yuan has been credited to his account. He agreed to share, so he says that he will only take half. Our main character is a real giga-chad and always keeps his promises, so immediately after he received the money, he started sending everyone the promised share of the money. Of course, the red-haired beauty also received her share, because as much as 250,000 yuan had just arrived in her account, she realized that now she could finally participate in the test for the 2nd rank. Next, this girl, turning to our main character, says that the two of them received too much money without doing anything. The girl asks how she can repay him. A few moments later, our main character approaches the girl and, placing his hands on her shoulders, he tells her that he does not need any overpayments from her. Then Harry Potter intervenes, saying that he sees how Big Brother loves money and also loves women. He is also strong. These guys get along well with each other. These words make the girl very embarrassed. She immediately blushes and tells this guy to stop talking nonsense right now. Next, our main character says that he hopes that these two will not tell anyone that he killed the boss. The girl was hoping for a declaration of love, but she got it. Harry Potter simply cannot contain his curiosity, so he asks Brother Sue why such an unusual request for non-disclosure. Our main character, continuing to walk to his car, explains that he does not want others to know about his fighting abilities for now. Meanwhile, he reports that the time is late and it's time for them to return. Next, our main character sits more comfortably in his cool car, and these two try to get out of this dangerous region in theirs and 2 cars. In the head of our main character, there was only one goal: to return home as quickly as possible in order to take his younger brother back home. Meanwhile, the course of events shifts slightly in position, and we begin observation from the very detachment that decided to leave without our main character and 2 of his soldiers. Next, we observe that someone, standing very far away, is aiming at them, or rather at the squad leader, with some strange thing. Some guy with a rocket launcher who is watching the cars wonders if they have already received the precious loot and if they are returning with it. The next moment we watch as a rocket launched with the help of an RPG flies into the vehicles of the combat squad. Then there is a huge explosion that raises an equally huge cloud of sand. The explosion is so strong that it can overturn the car. The soldiers immediately run out of the overturned cars and run to the car in which their commander was traveling to check if he was alive. The next moment we watch as the commander of this useless detachment independently gets out of the car, saying that he is fine and calling on the soldiers to prepare for battle. Hiding behind an overturned car, the commander tries to identify the location of the attacker's attack. Meanwhile, the soldier tells the captain that their enemy is strong. The captain replies that he doesn't care who this person is, he just has to kill this bastard. Then a guy comes out of the fog asking the garbage who he was going to kill. A guy appears in front of us who dresses up like a clown. He tells the soldiers that he has been waiting for this moment for a very long time. He asks them to play a game with him a little longer. This guy had an incredible 9th rank of strength, which meant that he would not have felt the monster that absorbed nuclear energy at all. The squad leader was extremely angry that they dared to attack him covertly. He was very angry at the arrogant guy who attacked them. He did not yet know about his power rank. Next, the guy with bandaged hands took out some mysterious book and asked the soldiers if they were guys from a 2nd-rank detachment called the Roar of the Tiger. Carefully continuing to study the contents of the book, the guy learned that there were only 10 people in their squad. He noticed that in this case, one was missing. Meanwhile, the squad leader, pointing a firearm at the guy in clown makeup, asked the idiot what he was talking about. He threateningly asked for the last time who he was. The guy looked up from his book and asked the armed soldiers to remain quiet, because they are the ones who should listen, so let them do their role. After this very strange guy decided that the absence of one person is not such a big problem, because it is still better than returning empty-handed. After the guy finished his speech, he reached out with both hands to his 2 blades. The guy was going to counter the gunshot with the help of 2 swords. The bald guy, taking a closer look at this guy, warned his guys that this psychopath was really very dangerous and should not be joked with. However, at this time, another soldier said that he was not worried about what kind of bastard he was, after which he opened fire on the enemy in order to quickly decide his life. Apparently, this soldier doesn't know how to listen at all, because he was warned that the guy was very strong. He easily cut a bullet in the air and was surprised that the soldier was not afraid of death. After that, the guy got angry because he loosened his weapon on the ropes. Before striking, he asked them to shut their mouths. A moment after uttering this phrase, this strange clown shinobi killer, using an incredibly high jump, reached impressive heights and launched an attack in the air. This attack was so powerful that it didn't just injure the soldier or something, it literally split him into 2. He didn't even immediately understand what he had decided to do. Seeing this terrifying picture, the leader of the team of useless idiots ordered everyone to simultaneously attack this scoundrel in clown makeup. Immediately after the squad leader's command, everyone opened fire on this guy with their service weapons. However, this fire show with a bonus sound only amused this psychopath. He once again sent his weapon to take the life of some soldier. Continuing to mercilessly take the lives of soldiers and laugh at how they scream in pain, he asked them to be more cheerful because they were acting too seriously. This very strange villain, who had incredible strength and skill in wielding weapons, easily tossed around armed soldiers with machine guns like toys. The same soldier with a shaved head who often spoke a lot at that moment stood with a rifle in his hands, but in his thoughts there were only prayers that he would not be killed. Meanwhile, the killer soldier with clown makeup stopped. Enjoying the sudden silence, he realized that everyone had stopped attacking him, so he himself began to choose his next victim. The next victim of this maniac was the commander of this group himself. The guy thought that he was a scorpion, so he threw a chain at him, causing great damage. However, unlike his soldiers, their captain did not fall immediately after receiving the slightest damage. On the contrary, he pulled out the villain's sickle from himself and moved towards him to kill him. Next, the captain of the team of losers decided to try to catch this clown by surprise by suddenly taking out a pistol and immediately starting firing shot after shot. However, this guy, who had the most impressive strength we've seen, was so tired of weapons that he simply made himself intangible for a while to all bullets. Then the guy, possessing incredible speed, in an instant reduced the distance to a minimum, reaching the squad leader. Having reached the captain of the squad, he did not stand on ceremony with him or say anything. Instead, he made a cut with incredible speed, leaving him no chance to survive. Meanwhile, the shaved soldier who recently held the rifle continued to simply hold it and is in real horror of what is happening around him right now. Next, this killer of a squad of losers grabbed his weapon and whispered the number 11 3 times and demanded complete silence around him. A moment later, this guy with cool sickles was surrounded by a cool aura that allowed him to become even stronger. He pathetically asked who would be dead next. These soldiers who survived were not so stupid as to understand that they did not have the slightest chance, which is why they tried to escape. However, of these two, only one dodged the flying sickle. Turning around at this clown, the soldier understood that this bastard was too strong to try to do anything. His assumption was once again confirmed when he realized that even the leader of the team, who was the strongest of them, was easily killed by these psychopaths. However, even this guy who was closest to escaping was forced to stay behind. The guy with the grimace of a clown told him that he could not escape when he was obliged to die here. To prevent this guy from running anywhere, the clown stuck a sickle in his leg, which is why this guy screamed like he was cut literally from the pain he experienced. I was mistaken. This guy didn't hurt his leg. He literally lost his limbs in just one moment. After he had no chance of escaping, he began to beg the killer to leave him alive. The guy tried to convince the maniac to leave him alive by saying that he would give everything he could, but the killer maniac replied that what he wanted simply could not be had by a loser like him. This loser continued to piteously ask for forgiveness, saying that he could give all the resources that belonged to his team in exchange for saving their lives. However, despite all the soldiers' dying attempts to convince this psychopath, we saw an accurate blow that 100% killed the guy. Looking at the corpse of this soldier, the clown began to smile, saying that more than anything in the world he hated such pathetic cowards as him. Meanwhile, the course of events is interrupted, and we are transported back to our main character, his girlfriend and Harry Potter. The three of them continued their route until they saw the cars of their comrades that were smashed, rather blown up. Our main character got out of his car in order to use the Witcher's instincts to find out what was going on. He understood only one thing. He had a bad feeling about all this. Observing the wrecked cars, traces of gunfire, and bladed weapons, our main character makes the obvious conclusion that something very bad happened. Even standing in the rain, our main character simply could not help but feel the disgusting smell of fresh blood that even the rain could not dispel. Only after our main character had almost figured out what had happened did these two come out and, just like Kenzie, were surprised. Looking at this terrifying sight, the girl with long red hair froze and could not utter a word. All the people she knew were lying dead. Our main character, meanwhile, stated that judging by the cuts from bladed weapons, all this is the work of one person and no more. Chenzi also added that the person who wielded this bladed weapon was extremely fast and accurate. His strength rank was at least 8, and his position was a professional killer. The girl approached our main character and added that her team was also considered a team of real professionals. But were there really so many people who were capable of doing this? Our main character repeated his conclusion, saying that in the course of his little investigation, he concluded that one person stabbed to death her entire former team. While our main character continued to draw conclusion after conclusion, using his cool, critical thinking, horror could be read on the little sister's face. Harry Potter also added on his own that this guy single-handedly killed so many people with his own hands, and at the same time, he was not afraid for a second that they might take revenge for them. Suddenly, the girl realized that they were in a desert area, which meant that the insects that roamed nearby would devour their remains, and not a single piece of evidence would remain. Turning to the girl, our main character concluded that her team did not die on Mount Qa, but they died on the way back, which means that even if someone killed them, it could also be a boss fight. This strange scene of events raised more questions than answers. After a while, the two returned to their cars to continue the route home. Looking out the window, the girl realized that after the destruction of her team, there was no one left to take care of her parents. She realized that she needed to return as quickly as possible and get to the second zone. Meanwhile, these two cars finally almost reached the city from which she was leaving. The trip was very long and exhausting. I wonder where they refueled. The course of events ends here, and we are transported to the office of our beloved Mr. Guan, who was in his office at that time. At this time, something strange happened. He asked his secretary if it was true that their company had just been bought by the Lu company Guangyu. The secretary with short purple hair was forced to prove that this company was so rich that it decided to afford to buy Guan's company. At this time, Mr. Guan began to move his fingers nervously because it all looked like Boss Du was going to do to them what they needed for the purposes of some plans. What happened next was what our main character's manager was so afraid of. He got a call from this damn fat man who watched a video on YouTube on the topic of manipulation. This fat guy was telling Mr. Guan that Boss Du would like to invite him over for a friendly chat over a cup of tea. After the conversation ended, Mr. Guan understood that from now on this fat man was like a boss to him, which means that he was definitely ready to do some things in his favor. The course of events accelerates and we are transported to the evening of the same day at the residence. Then we watch as Mr. Guan climbs the stairs and says that this is his first meeting with Manager Guan. He understood that he needed to continue to behave friendly. Walking inside, a man with long, luxurious hair was surprised that this zone contained a lot of people from the first to the third rank. He was amazed at the scale of the residence. Next, the plump guy showed his bodyguards. He said that the people who act as his bodyguards must be at least 7th advanced level. After a moment, this fat guy finally brings Mr. Guan to the real mommy of this residence. At this moment, Mr. Guan was in shock, because he would never have thought that the world genius Du would turn out to be a girl. This was very unexpected for this guy's perception. Then the girl, lighting her pipe, said that business is always just about profit, and in any business, no one cares and will never care who you are. This girl immediately started with questions. She turned to Manager Guan and asked him if he knew anything about an organization that calls itself Bi Yongjin. The man with long hair briefly answered no. The girl explained that this organization is connected with the administration that appoints them. That is, this is the controller who someone called Jing Daio. When the guy heard about the part that talks about attacking people who have a low rank, Manager Guan immediately made a fuss. However, the big shot confirmed what was said and added that roll caller collects information and takes advantage of chances when a small rank is chosen to hunt and wait for the moment to kill.